Welcome to the Hump Day Hangout podcast by Semantic Mastery, where we answer your local SEO questions every week at 4 p.m. Eastern. I'm Adam Moody, and my partner at Semantic Mastery, Bradley Benner, will be sharing his decades of expertise based on not only helping others, but running his own agencies and businesses in the space. If you'd like to join us live on YouTube each week, just go to www.semanticmastery.com/HDHO at 4 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays. If you'd like to ask a question ahead of time, go to the same link, www.semanticmastery.com/HDHO at any time and submit it there. Don't forget, you can get the Semantic Mastery Local SEO Toolkit for free at the same URL. Okay, let's get going with this episode. Welcome to Hump Day Hangouts. This is episode number 567. Today is the 8th of October, 2025. And we are going to jump into answering your local SEO questions after a couple of quick announcements, and wanted to first off say something that I just reminded myself of was if you prefer podcast and audio on the go, you can always check out Hump Day Hangouts on Spotify. If you go to Spotify and look for Semantic Mastery or Hump Day Hangouts, you will find it. You can subscribe there, download it for offline, do whatever you want. I know sometimes people can't make it live. Maybe you're on a flight, you're traveling, and you want to get caught up. That can be a great way to do that. I do that with various podcasts, and I know it's nice to stay up to date, maybe learn a few things, get things done that way. So with that all said, I wanted to make a couple of quick announcements, and then wanted to check in with Bradley. We've mentioned two main things, or maybe three main things over the past few weeks, and wanted to touch on those again. The first one is Local Mastery. This is the newsletter that you can get at localmastery.semanticmastery.com. This is 5 to 7 actionable local SEO insights each week, delivered via email newsletter, and there's an action item for each of those 5 to 7 things. And like I said, this is presented in a newsletter that you can get through in 30 minutes. And if you are amazing, or if you have a team, you could probably put all of this stuff to work for you, for your agency, for your business. But honestly, if you just put one of these things or dive into one of those, you can really make some changes, and then each week you get more. The second thing I wanted to talk about, Bradley touched on this over the last few weeks, was the Local Ops SEO Blueprint. And this is really the systematized approach to local SEO success. If you want to check this out, go to localops.semanticmastery.com. So with that said, Bradley, how you doing today?
I'm good, man. Happy to be here. Been crazy busy. I talked about this a little bit last week, but I'm trying to develop an AI app or workflow in N8N. It was, this is not my area of expertise. And I had talked about before that I didn't really think that I should probably be trying to learn how to build stuff because I've got the agencies to operate and do marketing and sales and all the other stuff. But in this particular case, I'm developing a workflow to help replace a sizable portion of our personnel that are on the content side of the semantic links, link building service. In other words, we've got like 18 team members that are content like editors. They're the content team, which means they prompt AI to generate articles, but then they, human edit the articles and insert the links and embeds and all that kind of, in the images and all that kind of stuff. And, but with AI capabilities, there's no reason for me to be continuing to pay that kind of cost and labor. So I wanted, I've got an AI dev team that like kind of does some development for me, for my agencies and for Semantic Mastery, et cetera, that I've got developing some other apps, and other workflows, but I didn't feel right about contacting or asking them to develop a workflow that's going to replace some of their coworkers. You know what I mean? Like I just felt like there was an ethical, moral dilemma there that it just didn't sit well with me. So I decided to try to do that on my own, and I learned about Cinta.io, which kind of is an AI app that helps you build N8N workflows. And so I subscribed to that, and I started working on this last week. And I probably spent 25 hours over the last week on developing this workflow. And it's fucking maddening. I can tell you one thing I've learned. I don't want to be the the AI, the AI workflow developer. I don't want to be that. Right? I instead would rather find use cases and sell it and then have another team build it. So it's quite maddening because there's so much trial and error, and it's, the AIs, by the way, I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar or have experienced this, but the AI always wants to please you. So like it's constantly saying when I go back to Cinta and say like, okay, this didn't work. This is the problem. I provide screenshots, all this, and it comes back and says, you're absolutely right. Like, I've identified the problem and I fixed it, and this time it's absolutely gonna work, and it says this shit, and then I download the new file, import it and it in, go through the whole testing process, same fucking problem again, and then it's maddening. And the reason I bring that up is because I think there's a place if somebody wants to learn how to develop that kind of stuff, it's wide open territory right now. But where I think there's opportunity is to identify how to, like, where can AI integrations and workflows be built to help streamline existing processes and things like that. And on the kind of the higher founder level side of things, I think it's important for us as the agency owners, the marketing professionals, whatever, to kind of look for opportunities where we can have those types of automations or workflows developed, but not necessarily be the ones doing it. You know what I mean? And so I'm just pointing that out because, after spending 25 or so hours in developing an app, and I've learned a lot going through Cinta and just going through each of the steps within the workflow and just trial and error, like testing and all this. I've learned a lot, stuff that I didn't even really care to learn. but now I know it just from the trial and error. And it's what I've learned is I don't want to be the one doing it. You know what I mean? So long story short, I contacted the dev team today and I just said, look, and I was honest. I was like, this is why I tried to do it on my own. I'm not really, I've spent way more time on this than I care to admit. And I need some help because I need to be working on the marketing and strategy and sales side of things, not the actual development side of things. And so I've got it quite far along. If we have time today, I might demo it just briefly to show you guys where I'm at. And then I'm stuck on this one of the very last steps in the workflow I'm stuck on. And that's what I finally reached out to the team today and said, look, I just need help. Truthfully, we're going to replace some of your coworkers with this workflow, but we're going to try to reassign them to some other tasks anyway. So I don't feel as bad about it. So, but anyway, I just wanted to bring that because I've spent so much time in it the last few weeks, and I know a lot of people ask about like AI development stuff and all that kind of. And what I've learned is it's really not something I have an interest in doing. I certainly have an interest in developing solutions for businesses, but I don't want to be the ones actually developing the workflows. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
anyway, that was my introduction.
Awesome. Well, Chris, I saw you popped on. How you doing today, man?
Doing good. Yeah, like also struggling with AI stuff. Number one, since Upwork added the whole AI integration, like 90% of the applications are like absolute fake and absolute useless. So the whole hiring funnel added just a massive chain to the whole thing. So you can't hire like you did before. And the other thing on the API end, I don't know if you noticed that Google removed the what it's called, the ending that you can show like additional search results. So like for example, if you wanted to have the first 50 search results instead of just the
Oh,
10,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
that got removed. Good luck if you did any API, and even more luck if you tried to do it with AI, because like it's still believing on the old stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's caused a lot of havoc in the rank trackers too. So,
Mm.
Yep,
um, but yeah, right
All right,
on.
guys. Well, let's get into it.
let's
All
do
right.
it.
So, and if we have time, and if I demo what I was showing about with the AI app, but Chris, you gave me a pointer yesterday, I guess it was during our corporate meeting when I was complaining about the same thing that I'm complaining about now. And you said it sounds like the token window, like the you used up all your tokens in a particular chat because it kept repeating. So today, when I started back on that process again, every time I ran into problems where it would say, okay, it's fixed, and then I would download the workflow, upload it to N8, and test it, and it didn't work, I would go start a whole new chat, and I would just start a whole new chat window. And I was able to get past one of the sections that I spent 3 or 4 hours on that I was unable to get past before. In the first attempt, I got past it today because I changed chat windows. But since then, I ran into an issue that I've tried 5 different times, 5 separate chat windows, can't get it resolved. So that's where I finally asked for help.
I recommend you use Claude for that or try some other AI
Well,
platform.
Cinta uses Claude.
All right, then
It
try
uses Claude's
GPT
API
Pro.
for it. So you can actually select between a couple models, but
Yeah,
it's only
I've
two, but
been there. Like
yeah.
if you think you're a coder and you can solve all your problems with AI, I wish you all the best and good luck.
Yeah, it's challenging, man. I was on X the other I think it was last night maybe. I've been following a lot of AI stuff on X recently, and somebody calls it, I think I should have bookmarked it and I may have, but I think he called it AI work slop. Like, in other words, there's a ton of people out there trying to develop all this AI stuff, but if you don't have good processes and you just try to automate shitty processes, you just end up with what they call AI work slop. Like, in other words, you've got a process that automates or semi-automates a sloppy work process. It's not really any good. You know what I mean? So part of the reason, or part of the way to develop a better workflow or automation is to try to identify where there are problems in it before you try to automate it. Like, through the process of trying to automate, you can typically find problems with the process, things that are inefficient or that are redundant, that kind of stuff. And so, anyway, all right, well, let's go ahead and get into questions. We don't have a lot, so we'll get into that and we can demo that app if we have time, if anybody's interested, and then we'll wrap up for the day. I'm driving back to Northern Virginia tomorrow to visit family for a few days, so I'm off tomorrow. I'll be driving all day. Here's the only few questions today. We have one from Mike that says, or a handful from Mike. The first one is, are any of the past or present live Twitch rank and rent videos on the YouTube up on YouTube or inside the mastermind? No, that was specifically for live streaming. That's why it was on Twitch. I may get back to that eventually. I do like doing that, but it was I had major life changes with moving and all this other kind of stuff that caused me to get away from that. Right now, I'm just a little bit overwhelmed. So I'm not going to start that now, but I may start it eventually again. I likely will at some point once I get some of this stuff streamlined that I'm trying to do inside my agencies, and at which point I'll start that up again. But no, we didn't record or keep any of them because it'd be outdated by now anyway. That was 2.5 years ago, 2.5, 3 years ago that I was doing that. Okay. Next question is, one of my directory listing sites is in an area or a region within the city that I would categorize as the technology park or business park, and Wikipedia holds the knowledge panel. If you type in the name of that park into Google, my directory site comes up close to the top, if inorganic, if you type in the brand name of the park. But have you ever had success with overtaking a knowledge panel where Wikipedia page sits? If so, what steps would you take? I'm not sure, because I'm not sure I fully understand the question, Mike. I'm not sure I understand. I know in the knowledge panel for various location entities, the Wikipedia page is referenced like in the description, right? Almost like a business description if it was a Google business profile. In a knowledge panel, if you see for like a location entity, a lot of the times that's all that will be referenced in the description area is a description extracted. It's almost like a meta description extracted from Wikipedia, and then it references Wikipedia as the source, right? It cites Wikipedia as the source. So if that's what you mean, no. Have I ever seen another website being referenced in that field for a location entity? No, not unless it's an actual Google business profile for like a park or something like that, if that makes sense. I don't know if that's the actual question or not. As far as overtaking the knowledge panel, meaning like, well, you don't really outrank a knowledge panel, because the knowledge panel will be off on the right side, right? You can still rank number one though, potentially for the technology or the business park name or whatever. Potentially you could rank number one for that, but I don't know about overtaking a knowledge panel. Again, maybe I just don't understand the question. But let's just see if we can demonstrate that for a minute. Like, we'll just use Pikeville, Kentucky as an example. So if this is what you mean, this is this is basically like a knowledge panel here, right? And this over here is part of it. If this is what you mean, like overtake that, meaning have it replaced with a website URL instead of Wikipedia, I don't think so. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's possible, but I don't think I've always seen this Wikipedia kind of reference in a location entity, if that's what you mean. So Yeah. Potentially you could still rank number one for it. It's unlikely, but potentially you could. But I don't know about this, if that's what you were asking about. So if Mike's on, he wants to clarify the question, that's great. Otherwise, I'm going to move on. Sammy, UI, okay. It says, how can do off-page SEO for a rank and rent site? Link building. Do a competitive link analysis first. Determine what the other top-ranked competitors are doing, the quantity of links, the types of links, the anchor text ratios, all of that, and then meet and exceed that with better links. Right? That's it. How can you do off-page SEO for a rank and rent site? That's exactly how you do it. Right? Just that's all it is. Right. If you have a GBP, you can do citations and all that other stuff too. But if you don't have a GBP, you're stuck with organic assets only. And I mean, you could still do semi like geographic, like partial geographic optimization, right? You can simulate like a physical location with a particular city and state or location modifier, but not an actual physical address, like not a street address. But you still are limited into what you can do as far as off-page SEO. You can build links. What else can you do? There's engagement signals and there's link building, and then there's citations and the kind of maps components of it. But if you don't have a GBP, and I don't know whether you have a GBP or not, but I'm just saying, how do you do off-page SEO for a rank and rent site, whether you have a GBP or not? It's all about looking at what are the kind of other off-page signals that and I just like to average that stuff out. That's what the competitive link analysis reports are for. And guys, remember, it's free training on our YouTube channel for exactly how to do that, right? Let's go to YouTube. We'll go to, let's see, YouTube Studios. Hold on a minute. If you just go to our channel, you can use the channel search function. In fact, let's just do that. I'm going to show you where to go. So just go to youtube.com/@semantic mastery. And then if you use the channel search function, do competitive link analysis, and you could probably just put competitive link in there and hit enter, and you'll see it come up right there, competitive link analysis for local SEO. That video, it's an hour and 8 minutes long because it's very thorough. It goes through step by step the process of how to create competitive link analysis reports using an Excel file with the SEO tools for Excel extension or add-on, and then a Majestic account. All you need is a Majestic Lite account. You have to have a paid account though in order for it to work, but then everything is done within the Excel file. All the data analysis and everything is done inside of Excel, if that's clear. And by the time you're done, you end up with, let me pause the screen for a minute and I'll show you what it looks like. If I can find, there it is. All right, so the competitive link analysis sheet looks like this when it's done, right? So, and you can do this for any number of keywords that you want to analyze, right? This shows the average number of links for the top ranked pages, the average anchor text ratio, and then I talk about how to get the topical. You can do this with Google or other tools, but these are Google's natural language categories that were identified on the top ranked pages for that particular query. And then here are the topical trust flow categories, meaning these are the topical categories that you should be trying to get links from because they align with or match up with the topical categories Google identified on the top ranked pages for that particular query, if that makes sense. And so this gives you all the data that you need to know how many links you can build, the anchor text that you should be using when building those links, and the topical requirements of those links in order for them to be given the most value or credit. Does that make sense? All of that is available in this training here. There's the link workbook template. So make a copy of that, or make a copy of it and then make a copy of the copy and then edit that copy of the copy to assign it to whatever project you're assigning it to, and then go through that process. That's going to help you to identify what you need to do. Okay. That's our standard operating procedure. Before I ever do any link building for any client at all, period, that's the first step always. Okay. Either a competitive link analysis or a full SEO audit, depending on what the engagement is. Is rank and rent still good for making $1,000 per month? Sure, but maybe not on one site. It depends. Remember, rank and rent is like where you rank the site, you lease it out. So it's a flat fee on a monthly basis for whatever it is that you charge. I find it difficult. I've found it difficult to highly monetize rank and rent on a rental fee. I found it's difficult to maintain the rental engagement or whatever with whoever it is purchasing it, because there's going to be good months where they get a lot of calls, and there's going to be slow months where they don't get a lot of calls. And whenever they get a lot of calls, you're not going to hear them calling you. They're not going to call you or contact you and say, hey, I want to send you some extra money because your site sent me a whole bunch of leads this month. But the moment that the site doesn't produce a lot of leads, you're going to get a call from them complaining about it. So it's funny how that works, right? When you get a bunch of calls, they don't hear from them at all. But when it's lower number of calls, you're going to hear from them complaining about it. And so that's why I found it difficult to manage or maintain rentals as a rank and rent type sites. It was much easier to monetize either on a pay per lead basis or on a revenue share basis, which is where I would get a percentage of any of the job price, depending on the engagement. I work with tree service contractors, but I've done a revenue share model before with remodeling companies, and it was a different monetization or compensation plan for them. But with tree service contractors, I get it's my preferred lead generation model or monetization method is revenue share, which is 10%. I get 10% of any lead that is generated that the tree contractor closes, or, that results in a closed job. They just get 10% of the contract price. Again, those kind of revenue share percentages, or how you split the revenue, how you split the revenue share, is going to be determined on an industry basis, and a number of variables will determine how you come to that, whatever the agreement is. In the tree service industry, it's quite easy because it's almost all labor. There's very little to no material costs, if that's clear. That's why what I'm saying is, with tree service contractors, it's easy to do revenue share, because it's just 10% of whatever the full contract price is of the job. That's what I would get, and that's how that's been my preferred monetization method for lead gen sites since 2014, when I first landed my first tree service contractor client. Ever since then, that's been my favorite model. When I do rank and rent, I only do like $99 a month for the site, because I own the site, and I just, and rank and rent is usually just a foot in the door strategy for me to then upsell them on traditional retainer-based services to build their brand up. Does that make sense? So I don't care if the rank and rent site isn't making me a lot of money. If I can rent it out for $100, $99 a month, $100, that's $1,200 a year for a site that I ended up using to upsell the contact, the lead buyer, into a full retainer based plan. Where they're basically paying me $1,000 a month or whatever it is for me to then work on their brand. And I always use this as the kind of justification for them doing both. And that is, I always tell them, like, look, it's in your best interest as a business owner to not rely on third party for all of your leads, right? It makes sense initially while you're trying to build your brand up, your business up, and generate leads, inbound leads on your own. It makes sense to buy leads from third parties. So I can provide that. But what I really recommend is that and that's why I do it for so cheap, and I tell them that. So that's part of the reason why I'm willing to rent you this site for only $99 a month, because it can help to supplement lead generation for you while you're investing in building up your own branded profile, basically, so that you can generate leads on your own without needing to rely on a third party provider for it. It's in and I always tell them, because as a business, as a trusted business advisor, it's my duty, my responsibility to make sure that you're aware of that, right? You should not be relying on third-party providers indefinitely for your leads, because then you never really have a safe and secure business, if that makes sense. And so for me, I always like to do the $99 a month rank and rent if I'm going to rent out the site. And that's a pretty easy way to, like I said, just make an upsell for retainer-based work. And then $1,000 a month is my average retainer for tree contractors. So is rank and rent still good for making $1,000 a month? Yes, but maybe not a direct $1,000 a month rental fee for one site. The way that I do it is use a $99 a month rental site to then upsell to $1,000 a month retainer, if that's clear. So it's good. That's my approach anyway. Just to be clear, when I've done revenue share with a remodeling company, I would get 5% of their profit margin. That was the deal that I worked out. And so it was a company that I did electrical work for, actually, because that's when I started learning how to do SEO, is because I was an electrical contractor. I was a subcontractor for a home remodeling or a kitchen remodeling company. And but they did kitchens and baths and, you know, sometimes additions and things like that. And I was the subcontractor, the electrical contractor. They subbed me out whenever they sold jobs. And so when I first started learning how to generate leads online for my own contracting business, then that was one of the first lead generation engagements I had, was with the kitchen remodeling company. And they're in Virginia Beach. They were called Coastal Kitchens. And anyways, I ended up starting generating leads for them. And we worked out an arrangement where I would just get 5% of the profit margin. So, you know, an average at the time, this was 15 years ago, at the time, an average kitchen job was $35,000, $40,000 on kind of the low end, and on the high end, $100,000. And so they would make roughly a 20% margin. They would roughly 20%. And then I would get 5% of that margin, whatever it was. And that's how I would generate leads for them. But with tree services, it was a lot easier because it's almost all labor, no material, little to no material costs at all. So it was just a flat 10% rate on any lead or contract that was closed. If that's clear. So, all right, moving on. Mike says, my client is starting to build out a brand new site or campaign or something, and has recently acquired a new GPP, which does have verified NAP, but 0 reviews yet. They do have an optimized website, and when you do a search in Google, their brand does show in the SERPs. They have not done anything else in the socials, no G sites, no cloud pages, nor have a YouTube channel yet. In the past, you mentioned purchasing a Press Advantage press release for new brands, but I believe you mentioned ordering an upgraded premium one. Is that right? Usually, I mean, I always talk about the first press release. If you're taking on a new campaign, or if it's a new business that's launching or whatever, I always like to do the first press release as kind of an announcement, to announce, you know, something new is occurring at the company, whether it's a new website or whatever it is, and then use a premium for that. And then I talk about, and I just did some training on this last week in the mastermind community. But then I always, you know, I do press release stacks or silos. I typically do stacks now, which is slightly different configuration. But for each press release stack or silo, there's a top of silo or top of stack, a TOS press release, right? And that's whenever I do a stack or a silo, we're trying to target a specific topical or service category, like, you know, service category, because I work in service-based businesses mainly. So either a topical or service type of a category, or location, an area. We're trying to target an area, a service area. So we're going to publish press releases targeting locations within that service area. And so a silo or stack, a press release stack or silo, whatever's at the top of that I recommend as a premium release. And then any subsequent supporting releases that are within the silo or the stack, depending on how you configure it, are just standard releases, if that's clear, standard distribution. All right. If so, what is the benefit of doing that versus a normal press release? Well, because you get the premium pickups, the premium distribution publications, Yahoo Financial, Globe Newswire, USA Today. I recently upgraded my Press Advantage account again. So now the premium press releases went up again, but that's because we also now have USA Today in all of and when the release qualifies for that, if it's there are certain editorial requirements that it restricts, that won't allow certain press releases to be published on USA Today. But as long as we can meet the editorial requirements, we now have USA Today in there as well. And there's a number of others in there. Benzinga, I think, is another one. There's a few others. But yeah, there's a reason for it, because you get some really high authority links. And when I say high authority, I mean like, I don't mean domain authority, although that's true too. I just mean like you're getting reference on high authority domains. And I don't mean Moz's domain authority. Okay. Hopefully that's clear. All right. So anyway, but yeah, so I always recommend the premium as kind of the first press release when you're starting a new campaign, and then also at the top of any stack or silo. All right. I know Press Advantage allows for video embed. Would you suggest creating a YouTube channel first? Yes. Or, you know, just having a YouTube video that's optimized for that brand, embedded, whether it's on the branded channel or not, Yes, it's certainly better to have it on the branded channel, but we do rep videos, David Sprague's reputation videos for a number of white label clients, and we just upload those directly on one of my YouTube channels, and we will use those videos in press releases, and that's fine too. Remember, it's certainly more helpful to have the video uploaded onto the brand's YouTube channel. But as long as the video is promoting the brand and referencing the brand, it can be published on any channel. It doesn't matter, right? It's certainly better to have it on its correct channel, but it doesn't have to be, okay? Would you push out the first PR before or after the branded assets are created? It really doesn't matter, because I kind of do all those things at the same time. Or, guys, remember, we just talked about this again. This is a good opportunity to pull this up. Local Ops SEO system. The exact process that I use every time is to work on the brand stuff, right? Week one, and usually it's all done in the first week, as we do a full SEO audit or competitive link analysis, depending on which type of business it is. Then we either order the branded assets or a brand builder, depending on what the data analysis process showed us. We then know how well developed is the knowledge graph for that particular branded business location. Depending on how well developed it is or underdeveloped it is, determines whether we're going to do branded assets or brand builder. Slight difference in these two. Brand builder includes a premium press release. So that's, again, if it's a weak brand, we want to use a premium press release specifically to help kind of push some authority, right? And some brand recognition. And then when we get to week 4, which is where we start doing our ongoing services, week 4 and beyond, press releases. Again, press releases right there. So it's part of the process. And I always do that. It doesn't matter whether you have these back or not, because usually sometimes these will still be in process by our vendors, like still be in the build process when we publish the first press release. When we link to what I always recommend for link, and by the way, this is another video that's publicly available on our YouTube channel. So let me show you where this is. We're going to come back to Semantic Mastery YouTube channel. I'm going to click on search, and we're going to look for press release 2024. Let's just use that as an example. I think that's a good search query. Press releases for local SEO 2024 update right there. If you go view this, that's an 1.5 hour long webinar that I did along with, I think Jeremy from Press Advantage even popped in on this at some point. I can't remember now, but this is basically this, my process hasn't changed. I know it's 2025 now. It's almost, the end of 2025, but my process has not changed much. I talk about this in here. There's diagrams in here at some point that show kind of the difference between a press release stack and a silo, that kind of stuff. And so this information is kind of contained within here. Again, this is available publicly on our YouTube channel. So this talks about the difference between a stack and a silo. I use stacks more than silos now, et cetera, but this is the reason why. Okay. It works. Okay. So what I was going to say here then is in the press release, when especially like for the first one, and I didn't used to say this, but now I do, because AI has changed things, guys. Language models, AI search, AI chat, all of that has changed things. And so it has changed slightly in that now the target URL at the top of a stack release, right? So top of silo or top of stack release. Now I'm usually going to use a brand anchor to link to the main money site. If it's the first press release that you've ever done for the campaign, well, look at the existing backlink profile. Again, go back. That's precisely why we do either a competitive link analysis or a full SEO audit at the start of a campaign, so that we know exactly what we need to do. And by the way, the competitive link analysis report is the 4th component of the full SEO audit. So it doesn't matter whether we're doing a full SEO audit or just a competitive link analysis report. The competitive link analysis report is available in both scenarios, right? In both cases. So we know exactly what pages have, like what the backlink profile looks like of the campaign that we're going to be linking to. We know the anchor text ratio. We know the topical relevance of the link profile. All of that has already been determined, so that when we go to make a decision as to what we're going to link to with the press release, what we're going to promote, etc., we already know what the current backlink profile looks like of the site we're linking to. So we can select a page. Typically, we're going to end up, at the start of a campaign, we're going to end up wanting to link to the home page or with a brand anchor from the top of stack release. But previously, I used to always say use the ID page and the Google Map URL, not the CID URL, but the share URL or a review share URL or something like that. But now, because we want the association between the release distribution or publications, the release publications, and the brand, a direct association. So, I am actually using sparingly press releases to link back to the main money site, but it's not for link building purposes. It's for association purposes. That's why what I'll do is I'll look at Majestic. I'll go look at the domain and in Majestic, go to pages, and it will show the page URLs and how links have been distributed across inner pages of the site. And I'll look at it and see, like, is the homepage been overlinked to, which is often the case. And if that's the case, I'll look for an inner page to link to with the first PR, right? With a brand anchor still. And sometimes it will just be a brand anchor, meaning just the company with no modifier at all. Other times it'll be a compound anchor, which is a brand plus anchor, meaning brand plus a keyword modifier or brand plus a location modifier, or a combination of both, like a semantic triple, an entity association statement. This company does this thing in this area, right? That whole phrase. Either in any case, that ends up becoming a brand anchor, and I will use that to link back to the main money site, but I determine which page based upon the competitive link analysis report. And then the other target URL typically in the first press release will be the ID page or the Press Advantage organization page. You understand? So the top of stack or top of silo release, now the only thing that's changed from this 2024 update in today is that I will now link to direct to the money site sparingly from only top of stack or top of silo releases. That's it. And like I said, I will identify which page to link to based upon the competitive link analysis report and the backlink profile analysis, etc. And then usually in the top of stack release, it will be a link to the money site and either a link to the ID page, a link to the Press Advantage organization page, or a link to the Google Map share URL or review share URL or the knowledge panel share URL. Does that make sense? I've been testing with that too. But then all subsequent releases are just going to link to that first release. And then usually what I'll do is link out to some other primary supporting asset, like a Google site, batch geomap, etc. Those types of things. Okay. And subsequent releases, the supporting releases, I mean. Okay. Anyway, all this is available publicly on the channel. So, but that's a good question too. Wondering about the order of things before or after PR is pushed out. Remember, guys, if you want to know about the order of things, just go get Local Ops SEO system. It's like $300, man. Like it's the exact system and the exact order with the exact timeline of how I apply everything. It's right here and it's step by step. So I'd encourage you to check this out. This I'm demonstrating it here for you, but all of that is laid out here with the appropriate timelines and all. Okay. Good question. Moving on. I think we're done. Actually, there's one more from Mike. Excuse me, from Huzzy. Excuse me. This was, can you describe the site structure, heading, subheading entities you would use for an SEO and web design business? Sure. Yeah, stand by for a minute. Let me pause the screen. I've got some of this I can pull up quickly. Depends on the services you offer, doesn't it always? Here's the entity analysis topic, category and topic analysis document. I know you guys aren't seeing my screen yet. Just give me a minute. I'll go through this with you. I don't have time to break it down right now. I have a number of audits that I could share, but I didn't get permission to share those audits from my clients. So I'd have to, obscure the company name and any revealing details, information. But this is the document that I use to constantly update for when I'm doing audits and things like that. So let's go look at digital marketing. Right there. So, again, guys, depending on the services you offer, there's really kind of two things. There's online marketing is synonymous with internet marketing service, just so you know. And so digital marketing is broad. Digital marketing is inclusive of a lot of different, and again, just go look at the different Google business, or excuse me, Wikipedia entities for this stuff. Let's see, sorry, there's a gnat flying around right in front of me. It's driving me nuts. Digital, 321 Digital, thanks, Bradley. Is local ops training available within the mastermind? Yes, it is, 100%. If you join the mastermind, you'll get that included too. So there's the thing. You can buy local ops for $299 or come join the mastermind for $297 for a month and you get it anyway. And the webinars and the community and everything else, so your choice. But yes. All right. So anyways, this guy's in my audits. I always break down the Google business categories into their entity components. What do I mean? I mean, all Google business categories are created from entities. Sometimes it's a single entity that is one and the same or synonymous with the Google business category. Other times it's multiple entities combined to create one category. Do you understand? And that's what this is the breakdown of. It shows it. And so I then go through the process of explaining how that breakdown occurs. And the reason that I reference all of these Wikipedia URLs and the breakdown into the audit documents is to prove, like, to bring receipts. Like, in other words, I want to show my work, right? Remember in math classes where, a teacher would give you a problem and you might know the answer, but the teacher wanted you to work out how you came to that conclusion, right? How did you derive at that answer to that, how did you come to that answer? She wanted to show your work. So that's what I do. I don't want to just tell people, do this and you're going to get better results. I always want to show why it's better results and the logic behind it. And so I explain very thoroughly in my audits how we break these things down. So where was I? Let's see, back here, digital marketing agency. So I bring this up because it depends on what services are offered. Like, for example, web design is its own separate entity. It's not really part of digital marketing. It's not really part of online marketing. It is a component. It's tangential, right? It's nearby. It's adjacent, but it's not under the same kind of umbrella. And so internet marketing service, which is the kind of primary, well, actually, let me back up. I typically recommend people that offer things like web design, as well as SEO and PPC and social media marketing and all these other kind of things. I usually recommend that people go with marketing agency as the primary category because it's broad. A lot of other companies will also, like a lot of full service agencies, also do graphic design, right? Again, that's another service that's a standalone entity. So marketing agency makes sense to be the broader kind of primary Google business category because it's all inclusive of these other more specific subcategories, sub-service categories. Do you understand? But internet marketing service is really the appropriate, most relevant category for SEO, for social media marketing, et cetera. And so just to kind of explain that, let me click on this and we'll open it up. And you'll see internet marketing is synonymous with digital marketing. It's an entity variant. And so if you click on digital marketing, you can see over here kind of the key concepts of digital marketing, right? And there's kind of a warning here that says that this is written not like, like it's not written like a lot of the Wikipedia articles that they expect or whatever, but it doesn't matter. You can still get some really good information from here, right? For example, like online methods used to build brand awareness, search engine optimization, search engine marketing, social media marketing, content marketing. So you see, these are subcategories of this digital marketing entity. They're subtopics, I should say, right? This is the topic. These are subtopics, but subtopic doesn't mean that it doesn't also have its own standalone entity, right? It can be its own entity. It can be a more specific entity that is part of that is also included or part of a larger, broader entity, if that makes sense. And so you can see that SEO has its own Wikipedia page, means it's its own entity, right? It's a subtopic, a sub-entity, so to speak, of digital marketing, but it's still its own entity. Search engine marketing, also known as PPC, has its own entity, right? But it's also part of a larger, broader digital marketing entity. Okay, hopefully you guys understand that. So next we have online marketing, right? And by the way, internet marketing service is synonymous with digital marketing service or service economics because there's multiple versions. of service, depending on which context you're using it in. That's why this is called a disambiguation page, so that you can disambiguate the contextual relevance of this term service, depending on which context it's used in, if that's clear. The context in which we would be talking about a digital marketing service, or internet marketing service, which is synonymous with digital marketing service, it would be service economics, which is the act or use for which a consumer, company, or government is willing to pay, right? Do you understand? So internet marketing service is saying digital marketing service that a company, in this case, a company would be willing to pay for. So that's why it makes this is the kind of the breakdown to show how that category was created. Internet marketing service, internet marketing redirects or is an entity variant for digital marketing, and in service, multiple versions of service, depending on which context it is used. And service economics is the appropriate context here. So the internet marketing service is really a combination of these. This is how we got to that, if that's clear, right? And then you got things like I mentioned before, that are more subtopics. So why I'm talking about all of this right now is to understand the hierarchy of these concepts, because you have to understand that in order to structure the site properly. If you don't, if you just do everything flat as all top level pages, you can destroy the performance of the site. If you place everything under a particular silo and it's not proper, it's not structured properly, you can destroy the performance of the site. So it makes sense to understand these concepts before you try to build out a site. That's why I go through all of this process in an audit document and the review video, because I try to very thoroughly explain these concepts, so that not just to tell you what to do, but so that you understand why I'm suggesting that, so that you're, number one, if you understand it, you're likely going to be more confident, feel more confident in making those changes on a live site, a client site, or a site in production, whatever, right? If you understand it, you're more likely to feel confident about making those changes. Also, I want you to understand how to apply those concepts to other campaigns without needing to always order an audit. Does that make sense? And so I'm pointing that out because, again, depending on the types of services that the agency provides, digital marketing, right, could be broken down. And here's the thing: you can optimize a homepage for digital marketing agency, right, or digital marketing company, whatever, because that is the broadest of all categories. And then I would have a top level category for internet marketing or online marketing, because let me kind of show you something else. It's probably, I'm sure it's already there. It's interesting that I don't see that in there, really. It should be. I don't know why it's not. Let's go take a look at that. Online marketing, or online advertising is the official name, but they're all mean, there's online marketing as a synonym for it. So it's an entity variant, but let me just show you what I mean. Online advertising, right? This is also known as online marketing, internet advertising, digital advertising, or web advertising. Do you understand? And so this is where I'm saying what I would do is, for a agency site, is the homepage optimized for digital marketing agency or digital marketing company. Okay. Then, and that's it. That's the homepage is optimized for the broadest kind of category. And then you're going to have service categories for each top level service that the agency provides, right? So if they do online marketing and advertising, right, then you would have like an online marketing or internet marketing services category, right? And then underneath that is where you would reference search engine optimization, local SEO, social media marketing, email marketing, content marketing, right? Those are all subcategories of internet marketing or online advertising, online marketing, whatever you want to title it. All of these are synonyms. You can choose any which one of them that you want to use, right? You can also click on tools, what links here, hide transclusions and hide links, and you'll see all the entity variants or synonyms there as well. You see what I'm saying? So you can pick any one of those terms. They all basically mean the same damn thing. So if you understand that hierarchy, then you can structure the site properly so that you have top level service category pages that align with their matching Google business categories, which is precisely why I spend the time going through breaking all of these down here, right? So then if the company does web design, right? Website designer is the Google business category. In Wikipedia, it's web design, right? But you see, that's an entity variant. It means the same fucking thing. So It's perfectly fine. But then I would have a separate service category on the site for web design or web design and development, right? Web development is also another, right here. You can see the Wikipedia page right there for that. Web development is, but they're very closely related. So you can often combine those two in the one service category under the Google business category is website designer. But web design and development can fall underneath that service category, if that makes sense, right? So hopefully you get what I'm saying. But like if they do graphic design, right? Graphic design could be a whole nother service category. And again, going back to here, you would match that up with graphic designer is the service category, but graphic it's corresponding category as well, or excuse me, topic as well, entity page, right? So that's how I do it. I again understand the hierarchy, and then you can figure out how to structure the site properly. Why I say, look, you want to put the broadest category on the homepage, especially when you have multiple service categories. So when I said marketing agency is the primary service category in the GBP, but then I said optimize the homepage for digital marketing agency because it's still marketing agency. You just prepended digital to it, if that makes sense. So hopefully you get what I'm saying. For a GBP, a marketing agency GBP, I would have marketing agency the primary, and then all of the relevant subcategories: internet marketing service, website designer if they do that, graphic designer if they do that, those types of things. Okay, but then the website itself, optimize the homepage for digital marketing, and then you create top level service category pages for their respective service categories of the services that they provide, and then you identify the top level Wikipedia topics and the subtopics, which is what I just showed you. And then you start creating pages in that appropriate structure, right? With that same hierarchy as how Google understands it, which is the way that Wikipedia has it shown, really. So hopefully that's clear. On the top level page, by the way, so for example, online advertising or internet marketing. So that example that I just made, right, where you would be using a top level service category that underneath that you would list search engine optimization, local SEO, social media marketing, etc. Right? So that would be a top level service category. So on here, I would make a top level page, and then you would have an H2 on that page that says these are the online marketing or internet advertising or digital advertising or whatever. Again, all of these are variants, so you can pick whichever one sounds right to you. And so I'm just going to say we provide the following, or these online that we provide these online advertising services, and then it would have an H3 for each one of those services. Then if you have supporting service pages that fall underneath the online, so example, a separate page for SEO, a separate page for local SEO, a separate page for social media marketing, those would be child pages of the top level online advertising page, right? And so that would be an H2 that says these are the online advertising services that we provide. Then H3 internal links with H3 anchor text that list and link down to their supporting service pages. On each service page, you would have an internal link back up to the top level service category page. You understand? And then on each one of those service pages, the top level and supporting service pages, you have an internal link element that's going to list and link to your location pages. That's how you create a direct association between the service and each of the locations that service is available to, and vice versa. On the location pages, you have an H2 that says these are the following marketing services that we provide in whatever that city is or town is, and then you're going to list and link with H3 anchor text to the top level service category pages. And if you have supporting service pages, child pages of their top level service categories, and those would be H4 links to the supporting service pages, right? Do you understand? And that creates a direct association between each of those individual services and that specific location. It's why you don't need to have a separate page for each service times each city, because you just create the association through internal links in a logical format that Google understands, because it's all modeling the hierarchy of how Google understands these topics or these concepts. Right? Same thing with the geographic structure, how you structure geographic silos within the site, right? It's the exact same way. Go look at Wikipedia, right? If we start here, we go look at, for just an example, like I'm in Pikeville, Kentucky, right? So we always start with the city or town level. Okay. And then, oops, meant to say Pikeville, Kentucky. Then from here, you can see what county is that city in. You open that up, and then what region is this county in, right? So we can typically find a region then that it's so we can determine the hierarchy of how to structure location pages, right? Are we targeting a major metro area? Within the kind of top level is counties, and then city or towns. Cities or towns is kind of the supporting location pages, or are we going more granular, where we have top level cities as the top level pages, but then we do neighborhood pages? Like, again, we have to determine what is the scope of the project, how competitive it is, because that's going to determine how many levels deep you should go with supporting location pages. All that kind of stuff is all determined through the local SEO, either full SEO audit or the competitive link analysis, right? And in determining kind of determine all of that before you build the site. That's why, again, right here, we talk about build optimized website. We always do that in weeks over the course of like weeks 2 and 3, based upon the analysis up front, right? So anyway, it was a good question. Let's move on. Okay, so we got a couple comments, guys, and we're going to wrap up right on time too. Alex at Sammy, yes, I have client paying $1,500 a month for rank and rent. That must be for rank and rent. Yeah, it's hard to do, Alex. I mean, good for you, man. I hope it works for you. I always had a real hard time. Anytime I tried to charge anything over $500 a month for rank and rent sites, it was hard to keep them monetized for long at that rate. I would constantly be replacing the lead buyer, right? And I got tired of doing that. So that's why I changed my monetization strategy significantly, right? As far as lead gen or revenue share as primary models, and then lead very inexpensive rank and rent, which is why I target low competition areas now, because it just makes it so much easier. Target low competition areas, rank a site very fairly easily, relatively low amount of work and investment of resources, time, money, whatever. And then once you have it ranked, you use that as a sales tool. You rent it out for $99 a month and use it as an upsell or as a sales tool to then upsell to a larger retainer package, because it's much easier to manage and maintain one of those sites, in my opinion, than it is to try to monetize it for $1,000 a month, if that's clear. That's just in my experience with working with tree guys. That's how I modified my business. Costco says, does rank and rent even work without a GBP? Yeah, it can, but not nearly as well as it used to now, especially because, but as I just mentioned though, Costco, like that's why I do those for only $99 a month. You see, because they're not generating a lot of leads as organic only assets. But I can use that. And by the way, like I said, I will rent the site out initially if that's all they're willing to purchase. But if they're willing to go right into a retainer, I will just tell them, I will assign any of the leads from this site to you. I don't charge them $99 a month for that site and their retainer on top of that. If they agree initially to go right into a retainer package and I use that rank and rent site or lead gen site as a sales tool, then I tell them, hey, listen, if you sign up with me by this Friday or whatever it is, I'll assign this site exclusively to you, meaning any leads generated from this site will go to you and you only, nobody else, as long as you're a paying client of mine. That's it. I don't charge them $99 for that site and then also a retainer. Now, if they start renting the site first and then later on want to run a retainer, if they don't ask to have them combined, I'll keep billing them for both. But if they ask to have them combined, I'll combine them, if that makes sense. You know, if they ask, sure, I'd say, yeah, that's no problem. I'll just go ahead and cancel that subscription and we'll just wrap it into your existing retainer, if that's clear. So that's part of the reason why specifically I don't charge a higher price for organic only rank and rent assets, because they really don't produce a lot of leads. Why do you not like using press releases for link building? Because it's the same set of referring domains. You should know this, right? If you keep hitting the site with links from the same set of referring domains, there is diminishing value very quickly. There's diminishing value to any subsequent links from the same set of domains. You create a footprint and a pattern. Don't do it, right? I've got a number of SEO clients where they use press releases as their primary link building method. And like, you'll go look at their pages in Majestic, go sort by, go to domain, look at the full backlink profile of the domain, go to pages, and you can see clearly exactly those clients that are using press releases for link building, because it'll say in the referring domain column for each of the page URLs, it'll say the exact same number of referring domains for multiple pages on the site. And then a lot of the times, the poor bastards use keyword anchors, either topic or target anchors. And so it's, referring domains will say like 67, and it'll be 67 referring domains for 8 pages on the site, the exact same number. And then you go look at the anchor text ratios, and it's keyword anchor. And even if they do a brand anchor, it's still the same set of referring domains. There is diminishing value to receiving multiple links from the same referring domain. That's why we don't do that. At Semantic Links, we make sure that we keep track of what we're linking to from each of our resources, our link sources, so that we're not duplicating links to the same brand. Not even to look, I'm talking about specifically the website, linking from press releases direct to the main website. But we don't even link from the same link sources to various properties within the branded assets of a brand, because that creates a footprint too. You see what I'm saying? So that's why I said I'm very, very careful about what I link to with the press releases, and it's not for link building purposes. It's for brand association. Okay. Costco says, can we assume that whoever is ranking for the most competitive search query in the most competitive location has the best site structure? No, not necessarily. So we can just copy their structure. No, because there's a lot of other variables there, like brand authority, like how the history of, like, literally how well established is the company. There's a number of off-page factors and variables that are included or that are taken into consideration when it comes to local search. There's no question, right? I mean, I've talked about this many times before, but if there is a business that is doing a lot of offline marketing and advertising in their local area, where it's maybe unintentionally, but it's causing consumers in that area to go to Google and search for the company by name and then click through, that alone can cause a site and a brand that has no business from all other SEO metrics, no business at all ranking. And they can rank exclusively from that sort of activity, right? We all call it CTR, but I'm not talking about manipulating CTR. I'm talking about generating real click-through rates from real consumers in an area because of social engineering, which would be like, again, yard signs, newspaper ads, or any sort of direct mail, radio ads, cable TV ads, anything at all where a consumer in the local area can see the company name and they go to Google and search for the company and then click through. That can rank a terribly optimized site all day long if it's done properly, right? And I see it all the time in audits and competitive link analysis reports. So there's a number of other variables that you have to take into consideration. That's why it's important to have the site structured properly in the best way possible, because there's a lot of other variables that you don't really have any control over. And so you want to try those that you do have control over, you want to optimize as much as possible, so that in the event that some of those other areas you don't have any control over are not being optimized or done properly, you still have a good chance of performing well, right? But again, any sort of kind of socially engineered CTR, like not manufactured CTR, but real Google user profiles that Google knows are real people searching and clicking, can rank a terrible site all day long. If it's done right, it can, and those search and click signals are maintained, you can keep that site ranked. Even with no like shitty backlinks or terrible on page and everything. It's all about brand authority. I'm telling you guys, I've talked about this for over a year and a half now, for sure. The two most important things in local search right now are branded location authority, number one. Number two is site efficiency. So if you have enough branded location authority, all the other things can have problems and you can still perform really well, including site efficiency. That's why you can't just rely on, well, if I just copy the top ranked competitors. No, because what are the other variables that are causing them to rank? You have no control or even idea of what those are, right? Okay, guys, I got to wrap it up. It's 5 o'clock. Appreciate you guys. Thanks everybody for being here. We do have, for mastermind members, I have rescheduled tomorrow's mastermind webinar for Friday because I'm going to be traveling tomorrow. So it's on Friday instead. Check the mastermind community webinar and event schedule and you'll see it. And you can update your RSVP or just watch the recording, but we'll see everybody on Friday. Thanks, guys.
Bye, everyone.